The invitation. Alex had always been fascinated by the unknown. His job as an astrophysicist gave him the opportunity to work with data from faraway galaxies, but nothing could have prepared him for his first encounter with Zora. It started like any other ordinary day. Alex was sitting at the edge of his pool, sipping iced tea and watching the shimmering water. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow across the sky. Everything was peaceful, until Zora appeared. Zora was unlike anyone Alex had ever met. She wasn't just beautiful. There was something otherworldly about her. Her skin had a faint glow, like stardust caught in moonlight, and her eyes were a deep shade of violet, almost hypnotic. She had arrived on Earth a few days ago, but Alex had only just started talking to her. She wasn't like the usual visitors he dealt with. Zora wasn't here for science or exploration. She was different, mysterious. "Alex," Zora spoke, her voice soft but clear. "I've heard so much about this place, your planet. The beauty of the waters, the peace it brings to your kind." Alex smiled at her. "I guess you could say we like to relax here. The water's perfect today. Want to join me for a swim?" Zora tilted her head, curious. "Swim?" "Yeah," Alex said, pointing to the pool. "It's one of Earth's simple pleasures. Just relax, float, and let go of everything." Zora looked at the pool, then back at him, as if considering the invitation carefully. She had never been in water like this before. Her home planet had oceans, but they were nothing like Earth's crystal-clear waters. There was something about the way Alex spoke that made her trust him, something about the way he smiled that made her feel comfortable. Without saying much more, she nodded. "I will join you." Alex stepped into the pool, and Zora followed. The cool water splashed gently against their skin. Zora seemed cautious at first, dipping her toes in slowly. It was unlike anything she had ever felt before. The water was so warm, so inviting. But there was something else, something she couldn't quite explain. A strange energy seemed to pulse around her, as if the water was responding to her presence. Alex didn't notice it at first. He was busy relaxing, floating on his back, enjoying the sensation of weightlessness. But when he glanced over at Zora, he realized something was off. The water around her shimmered differently, almost like it was alive. Tiny ripples began to form, moving in sync with her every move. It was subtle at first, but soon, the entire pool seemed to react to her in a way that was both beautiful and strange. "Is something wrong?" Alex asked, noticing her discomfort. Zora looked down at the water, her face a mixture of surprise and confusion. I didn't do that," she said softly. "It's as if the water is responding to me." Alex blinked, not sure what she meant. "Responding? What do you mean?" Zora stared at the water, which was now shimmering and swirling in patterns Alex had never seen before. It wasn't just moving, it was dancing. The ripples had a life of their own. And then, as if in response to her unspoken thoughts, the water began to form strange symbols, glowing faintly in the pool. "Alex, this isn't normal," Zora said, her voice a little more urgent now. Alex slowly swam closer to her, his mind racing. "What do you mean? Is this part of your, what, alien powers?" Zora shook her head. "I don't know. I've never seen anything like this before. This water, it's reacting to me, but I don't know why." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard of alien technologies and abilities before, but he never expected something like this to happen right here, in his own backyard. The strange symbols in the water grew brighter, and for a moment, the entire pool glowed with an eerie light. It was beautiful, but it was also unsettling. Alex's heart began to race. "What's happening, Zora?" he asked, his voice tight with anxiety. Zora looked at him, her violet eyes wide with a mix of fear and wonder. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I think something just woke up." The water around them began to bubble, as if reacting to Zora's words. Alex felt a strange pressure in the air, like a storm was building. He swam back quickly, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no idea what was going on, but he knew one thing for sure. Things were getting out of control, and fast. Zara, still standing in the pool, seemed to be trying to control whatever was happening. But the symbols in the water were growing more intense, the energy in the pool rising higher and higher. It was as if the very elements were bending to her will, or maybe to something else entirely. "I didn't mean for this to happen," Zara said, her voice barely above a whisper. I think I've triggered something. Something I didn't understand." Alex didn't know whether to be scared or amazed. But one thing was clear. Inviting Zara into the pool had set off something far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. As the tension between them grew, the pool's surface seemed to pulse with energy, and Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger, something that could change everything. Unseen forces. The glowing symbols in the water flickered, casting an eerie light across the pool. Zara stood frozen, her eyes fixed on the swirling patterns, but her mind was racing. She could feel the power building. Something inside her, something ancient, was awakening. The water wasn't just reacting to her presence, it was calling to her, responding to her very thoughts, her very being. Alex, still trying to make sense of what was happening, swam quickly to the edge of the pool. He had no idea how to stop whatever was going on. "Zara, what did you do? What is this?" he asked, his voice strained with panic. Zara shook her head, her thoughts scattered. "I swear, Alex, I didn't mean for this to happen," she said, her tone filled with confusion. She extended a hand toward the water, trying to calm the rising energy. But the water wasn't listening to her. It was as if it had a mind of its own, pulling her deeper into its strange dance. The ripples spread outward, growing larger, more intense. They collided with the sides of the pool, sending small splashes into the air. But it wasn't just the water reacting. It was alive. Zara's eyes widened in realization. She had never felt anything like this before. "This pool, it's not just water," she whispered, more to herself than to Alex. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "It's connected to something much bigger, something ancient, like a force I've never encountered." Alex didn't know what to make of her words, but the rising energy in the air made him feel uneasy. The temperature of the pool was rapidly increasing, the heat becoming unbearable. The air around them crackled with electricity, and Alex could feel a static charge forming on his skin. "What do you mean, connected?" he asked, his voice rising with urgency. "What's going on, Zara?" She turned to him, her eyes filled with something that could almost be described as fear. "The water here, it's part of an ancient technology. It's not just a simple pool. It's a device, a key to something much larger." Before Alex could respond, a low hum filled the air. The pool's surface shimmered as if it were made of liquid glass, the water now glowing brighter, casting strange reflections across the yard. Alex took a step back, his mind racing. He had never seen anything like this, but something inside him told him it was too late to back out now. "What do you mean by key?" Alex asked, his heart pounding in his chest. Zara's voice dropped to a whisper. "This pool was built thousands of years ago by my people. It's a hidden relic, a test, and I think I just activated it." Alex was speechless. Activated it? How? Zara's expression darkened. "I don't fully understand it, but when I came into contact with the water, something in my body reacted. This energy isn't just from Earth. It's from our galaxy, from a race far older than mine. It's connected to the very fabric of space itself." As she spoke, the pool began to respond more violently. The symbols in the water twisted into complex shapes, each one pulsing with light. It wasn't just the pool anymore. The entire backyard was glowing. The trees around them seemed to hum in resonance with the energy coming from the water. The ground trembled slightly beneath their feet. Alex's thoughts swirled. "You mean this pool could summon other aliens? Like a signal?" Zara nodded slowly, but then her face turned pale. No, it's worse than that. It could draw them here, beings far more powerful, beings who know nothing of mercy. The air grew thick with tension. Alex took a step back, his mind racing. We need to stop it, Zara. Now. But Zara's expression grew darker. She reached out a hand to the water, but this time it didn't respond to her command. Instead, the water pulsed violently, as if rejecting her. It wasn't under her control anymore. Something was taking over. I can't stop it, she muttered, her voice shaky. A shadow passed overhead, casting a dark cloud over the yard. Alex looked up, his stomach sinking. The sky had been clear just moments ago. Now, there were strange dark shapes moving across the sky, faster than any aircraft he had ever seen. They're coming, Zara whispered, her voice barely audible. Alex's heart raced as the first ship appeared, an enormous dark shape, moving silently across the sky. It was too fast, too silent, and it was headed directly toward them. The ground trembled again, this time with the force of something far more massive. Zara's face was a mask of fear. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said again, the weight of her words sinking into Alex's chest. He stared at her, a mix of disbelief and desperation in his eyes. What do we do now? Zara closed her eyes for a brief moment, trying to focus, trying to think of something. But all she could feel was the pull of the energy surrounding them. We need to get out of here, she said finally. We need to stop them before it's too late. But Alex knew that it wasn't just the alien ships that were the problem anymore. It was the force they had awakened. Something far older, far more dangerous, had just been unleashed. And now, there was no going back. The hidden threat. The air crackled with energy, and Alex could feel the hair on the back of his neck stand up as the first alien ship hovered above them. It was enormous, a sleek, metallic structure that reflected the dim light from the glowing pool below. Its shape was nothing like any human technology, sharp angles and curves that seemed to shift in the air, as if it wasn't quite solid. Zara's breath came out in short, sharp gasps as she looked up at the ship. They're here. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, his mind racing. This was no longer just a strange encounter with an alien. This was something much bigger. Zara wasn't just an ordinary visitor from another world. She was the trigger to something far more dangerous, something ancient and powerful. He stepped back instinctively, feeling the cold metal of the pool's edge beneath his fingers. The energy in the air was thick now, almost suffocating. He could see the shadows of more ships in the distance, their dark forms blotting out the stars. Zara, we need to move. We need to hide, or... But she didn't move. Her violet eyes were fixed on the ship above them, her face ashen with fear. I didn't know this would happen, she whispered, her voice trembling. I thought the pool was just an artifact, a relic of an old civilization. I didn't know it was a beacon, or that they would respond. Alex glanced back up at the massive ship, his mind reeling. The ground beneath his feet seemed to vibrate with the pulse of its engines, a deep, resonant hum that made his bones ache. Who are they, Zara? And why is this happening? Zara swallowed hard, as though trying to gather her thoughts. She wasn't just a visitor from another planet. She was more than that. Her connection to the pool was deeper than she had let on. And now, Alex was beginning to understand that there was far more at stake than just the safety of Earth. They're the Arcanthians, Zara said, her voice filled with an unsettling mix of fear and regret. They're an ancient race, older than my people. They were once the rulers of many galaxies, but their power, it consumed them. They became ruthless, controlling everything in their path. And then, they vanished. Or so we thought. Alex's mind raced. So these Arcanthians are the ones who built the pool. And now they're coming to Earth. Zara nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving the ship above. The pool is a relic of their time. It wasn't just a marker of their civilization. It's a weapon, a way to control entire worlds. Whoever activates it becomes a beacon for their return. And that's what I've done. A chill ran down Alex's spine. You mean they've been watching, waiting? Zara turned to face him, her expression one of grim realization. Yes, for millennia, they've been waiting for someone to activate the beacon. And now, they found us. Alex felt the weight of her words sink into his chest. The Arcanthians weren't just coming to visit. They were coming to conquer, to reclaim their lost empire. And Earth was now in their path. I didn't mean to bring them here, Zara said, her voice breaking. I thought the pool was just a symbol of the past. I didn't understand. I didn't know it was still active. The first ship above them suddenly shot a beam of light from its underside, striking the ground just a few feet away from where Alex and Zara stood. The force of the impact knocked them both off their feet, sending a shockwave through the air. The ground cracked open where the beam hit, and a deep, rumbling sound filled the air. Get up, Alex shouted, grabbing Zora's hand. They stumbled to their feet, but Zora's eyes were wide with panic. They're not here to talk. They're not here to negotiate. Alex could feel his chest tighten as he pulled her toward the house. The pressure in the air was building, and the ground trembled beneath them. We need to get inside, fast. We can't fight them here. Do you have any idea how to stop them? Zora's face was pale, her thoughts racing. No, I don't know. But we can't stay out here. They'll destroy everything. And they'll never stop looking for me. They'll use me to take control. The sky overhead grew darker as more ships appeared, their shapes shimmering in and out of focus, like ghosts in the atmosphere. Alex could feel their eyes on them, a presence that sent shivers down his spine. He knew they had no time to waste. The Arcanthians were here, and they wouldn't stop until they had what they came for. Inside now, Alex urged, pulling Zara along, the sound of the ships growing louder, the pressure in the air more intense. They burst through the door and into Alex's house, slamming it shut behind them. Alex's heart was still racing, his breath coming in heavy gasps as he tried to process everything that had just happened. Zara stood by the window, her hands pressed against the glass, staring out at the sky. I'm sorry, she said, her voice small and filled with regret. I never wanted this. Alex took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. He knew they couldn't keep hiding forever. The Arcanthians would find them, no matter where they went. We need to think, he said. We need to figure out how to stop them. But I don't even know where to begin. Zara turned to face him, her eyes filled with determination. There's still a chance. I can feel it, but we need to act quickly. The longer we wait, the stronger their power becomes. Alex nodded, but deep down, he knew they were running out of time. The Arcanthians weren't just an alien race. They were a force of destruction, and they weren't going to stop until they had everything they wanted. And now, it seemed like it was up to him and Zara to figure out how to stop them. But where would they even begin? The price of knowledge. Inside the house, the tension was palpable. Alex paced the room, his mind swirling with unanswered questions. The image of the looming alien ships outside kept flashing in his mind, each one a reminder of the danger that had arrived on Earth. But there was something even more unsettling. Zara. She had never been fully open with him. There was always a sense of something more, something she wasn't saying. Now, as the Arcanthian ships hovered ominously above, Alex realized that the truth about Zara's past was more important than ever. He stopped in front of her, his eyes narrowing. Zara, we need to talk. You're hiding something. What exactly is your connection to them? Why are they after you? Zara didn't meet his gaze immediately. Instead, she walked to the center of the room, as though trying to put distance between them. Her face was pale, her violet eyes clouded with guilt and fear. I never wanted to involve you in this, Zara began, her voice low. But now that they're here, you need to know the truth. Everything. Alex stood still, waiting for her to speak. The silence between them felt heavy, thick with the weight of unspoken secrets. Zara closed her eyes for a moment, then turned to face him. "I'm not just some traveler from another planet, Alex. I'm the descendant of the Arcanthians. My people. We were once part of their empire." Alex blinked in confusion. You're one of them. But you said you came from a different world." Zara shook her head, a sad smile tugging at her lips. "I am from another world. But I'm part of a long line of exiled Arcanthians. When their empire collapsed, my ancestors fled. They settled on a distant planet far from the reach of the Arcanthians, hoping to live in peace. But the blood of the Arcanthians still runs through my veins." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The realization that Zara was directly tied to the very empire they were now fighting against sent waves of unease through him. He stepped forward, his voice quiet but filled with urgency. "So, you knew they'd come for you eventually. You knew this was a possibility." Zara nodded, her expression distant. "Yes, I didn't know when. But I always feared they'd come back. The truth is, I wasn't just born on another planet. I was sent away. My ancestors made sure I was hidden away, kept safe. They thought they could protect me. But they never counted on the pool. I didn't know it would react when I touched it. I didn't know it would call them." Alex's mind was spinning. "But why? Why didn't you tell me any of this before? I thought we were just you and me. But now you're telling me you've been running from them your entire life." Zara looked at him, her eyes filled with regret. "I wanted to protect you. I wanted you to think of me as just another person, not a weapon or a part of an empire that's destroyed so many worlds. You deserve a normal life, Alex. I didn't want to drag you into this war." The gravity of her words hit him hard. It wasn't just the alien ships in the sky. It was the fact that Zara's life was a lie, an endless series of secrets that had now exploded into their reality. And now, he was caught in the middle of a conflict that spanned across galaxies. The room shook slightly, and Alex turned to look out the window. The Arcanthian ships were getting closer, their presence almost suffocating in its intensity. "Zara, what can we do? What's the next step? You said they would use you to take control. How do we stop them?" Zara's face grew serious, her jaw tightening. She stepped away from him, her hands trembling slightly as she ran them through her hair. "We can't stop them with weapons or fighting. They're too powerful for that. But there's something we can do, something I can do." Alex took a step forward. "What do you mean? What can you do?" Zara turned to face him, her expression resolute now, her eyes glowing faintly. "I can disconnect them. I can sever their connection to the pool." Alex frowned. "How?" She took a deep breath, her voice trembling with the weight of what she was about to say. "The pool is a conduit. It's tied to the very fabric of their technology, their power. If I can control the flow of energy, I can disrupt it. I can block the signal, but it will come at a cost." Alex's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, cost? What's going to happen?" Zara hesitated, as though weighing the consequences. "Using the pool's energy to block them. It will burn through my life force. I can stop the signal, but it will leave me vulnerable, weak. I may not survive it." Alex felt the breath catch in his throat. You can't do that, Zara. There has to be another way." She met his gaze, her face filled with a mix of sadness and determination. "I've spent my life running, Alex. I've hidden from the truth, hidden from the Arcanthians. But now it's time to face what I am, what I was born to do." A distant roar echoed from outside as another ship descended. Zara closed her eyes, the light in the room flickering. "The Arcanthians are here, and they won't leave until they have what they want. If I don't stop them now, they will destroy everything." Alex felt his chest tighten as he stared at her. The choice she was about to make was life or death. His heart pounded in his chest, unsure of what to say, unsure of how to stop her. But Zara had already made up her mind. The choice. The ship outside trembled the ground beneath their feet, and Alex could feel the weight of its presence pressing against him like a physical force. Zara stood near the window, her eyes focused on the distant ships, but her mind was elsewhere. She was preparing herself, mentally and emotionally, for the sacrifice she was about to make. Alex's heart raced as he took in her words. He knew what she was saying. She had to sever the connection between the Arcanthians and the pool. It was the only way to stop them. But the cost was unthinkable. She might die. "I can't let you do this, Zara," Alex said, his voice tight with panic. He moved closer to her, grabbing her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "There has to be another way. We'll think of something else." Zara looked at him, her expression softening, but there was a sadness in her eyes that Alex couldn't ignore. "Alex, I've known this day would come. I can't keep running from my past. The Arcanthians won't stop until they have control, until they've destroyed everything we love. This is my fight too." "No," Alex said, shaking his head. "This is our fight. You don't have to do this alone." Zara's lips parted, and for a moment, Alex saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. But then it was gone, replaced by resolve. She pulled away from him gently, turning back toward the window. "The Arcanthians won't stop. You saw what they did when they activated the beacon. If I don't act now, they'll tear this world apart. I can feel their power building with every second." Zara paused, taking a deep breath. "I'm sorry, Alex. I never wanted to drag you into this, but now you have to trust me. This is the only way." Alex's mind was spinning. The weight of her words felt like a mountain on his chest. He couldn't lose her, not like this. He had barely begun to understand who she was, and now he was being asked to watch her sacrifice herself for a cause she'd been running from her entire life. "I don't care about the cause," Alex said, his voice strained. "I care about you, and I'm not going to lose you." Zara turned, her face a mix of pain and determination. "You won't lose me. Not in the way you think. What I'm doing is going to stop them. It's going to give us time to fight back. I'll be with you, Alex. In some way, I'll always be with you." The sound of distant engines roared louder, and Alex could feel the walls of the house shaking. They were here. The Arcanthians were here. A sudden flash of light illuminated the sky outside, and Zara's face hardened. "I need to go. I need to prepare the pool." Alex wanted to protest, to grab her and run, to do anything to keep her safe, but he could see in her eyes that she had already made up her mind, and there was nothing he could say to change it. He reached out, grabbing her hand, his fingers trembling. "Zara, please, don't do this. I can't lose you." Zara squeezed his hand, her grip strong despite the sorrow in her expression. "I'm sorry, Alex, but you need to be strong now. You need to be ready to fight when they come." A heavy silence fell between them, broken only by the distant hum of the Arcanthian ships. Alex's mind was racing. The plan was terrifying. Zara was going to give up everything to stop them, and he was helpless to do anything except watch. "I'll protect you," Alex said quietly, his voice raw. "No matter what happens, I won't let them take you." Zara's lips curled into a sad smile. "You can't protect me from this, but you can protect Earth. You can fight. And maybe together, we'll find a way to end this once and for all." With that, Zara turned toward the back door, heading toward the pool. Alex stood frozen for a moment, the weight of her words settling over him. She was leaving, going to face the Arcanthians and use the pool to sever their connection, risking her life in the process. He wanted to stop her, but he couldn't. All he could do was follow her, hoping that somehow, someway, she would survive. He turned to follow her, but just before he stepped out the door, he heard a noise, a sharp crack from the ceiling, followed by a low rumble. He looked up to see cracks forming in the walls of the house, large, jagged cracks spreading from the floor to the ceiling. The Arcanthian ships were getting closer, And the damage they were causing wasn't just physical, it was warping reality itself, distorting everything in its path. Time and space seemed to bend under the weight of their power. Alex, Zora's voice cut through the chaos. Come on. He shook himself out of his daze and ran toward the pool. As he stepped into the backyard, he saw Zora standing at the edge of the glowing water, her hand stretched toward it. The pool shimmered with an eerie, otherworldly light. It was pulsing, alive with energy. Zora turned to face him, her eyes filled with quiet determination. This is it, she said, her voice steady. This is the moment. Alex didn't know what to do. He had no idea how to help, how to make a difference. But he couldn't let her do this alone. Not now. With a final glance at the ships above, he stepped forward, standing beside her. I'm with you, he said softly. Zora didn't respond, but she nodded once, before closing her eyes and stepping into the pool's light. The water flared up around her, and Alex felt an overwhelming wave of energy crash through him, both powerful and terrifying. He reached out to her, but before he could speak, the sky erupted in a blinding flash of light. The sacrifice. The air was thick with tension as Zora stepped deeper into the pool's light. The energy surged around her, a visible pulse of power that seemed to crackle through the very atmosphere. Alex stood frozen, watching as the once tranquil water now began to glow with an unsettling brilliance. His heart raced as the ground beneath him hummed in response to the power she was harnessing. Zora's eyes were closed, her face serene despite the chaos unfolding around them. She was already connected to the energy of the pool, her body absorbing its power, and Alex could feel the strain in the air. There was no going back now. She had made her choice. Zora. Alex shouted, stepping forward, but the sound of his voice seemed distant, as though swallowed by the overwhelming power in the air. His mind was racing. There had to be something, anything he could do to stop her from going through with this. He couldn't let her sacrifice herself. But as he reached out toward her, a strange force rippled through the air, pushing him back. The ground beneath him cracked, and a low, eerie hum filled the air. The ship's engines were vibrating the very earth, and the sky was darkening, swirling with unnatural energy. Zora's eyes snapped open, her pupils glowing faintly with an alien light. She turned to face him, her expression both calm and sorrowful. Alex, she said, her voice filled with quiet certainty. It's too late now. The connection has already been made. I'm locking them out, but I won't survive this. No. Alex's voice cracked, his emotions flooding him. You can't do this. There has to be another way. Zora shook her head gently, a sad smile on her lips. There is no other way. This is the only choice I have left. If I don't stop them now, they'll destroy everything. You'll be the one left to fight them, to protect Earth. I can't ask you to fight this battle alone. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. He had always thought of Zora as someone strong, someone who could overcome anything. But now, in the face of her inevitable sacrifice, he felt helpless. He reached out again, desperate to hold on to her, to stop her from going through with it. But Zora's hand rose, and with a soft gesture, she gently pushed him back. Alex, please. You need to be strong. You need to survive this. Before he could say another word, the pool flared with a blinding light, its energy intensifying as Zora's body trembled under the weight of the power she was channeling. The very air around them seemed to hum with a dangerous frequency, as if the fabric of reality itself was stretching and bending. I'm so sorry, Zora whispered, her voice barely audible over the roar of the energy surging through the pool. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted to protect you. Alex couldn't speak. His throat felt tight with emotion, and he could barely keep his feet beneath him as the light from the pool grew brighter, overwhelming everything. He watched, helpless, as Zora's form began to blur in the intense glow. The ground trembled again, this time more violently. A deep, resonant roar echoed from the sky as the Arcanthian ships above shifted, their energy fields crackling and spitting out lightning-like bolts of power. They were preparing to strike, to break through the last lines of defense and claim what they had come for. Zara. No, Alex whispered, his hands shaking. Zara, no. But it was too late. With one final pulse of energy, Zara's body went limp, her form dissolving into the radiant light of the pool. The light expanded, enveloping everything around them. Alex felt his body being pulled toward it, as though the energy was trying to drag him into its depths. But in the instant the light reached its peak, it vanished. The silence that followed was deafening. Alex collapsed to his knees, his heart pounding in his chest as the reality of what had just happened crashed down on him. The pool was now still, its glow fading into nothingness, leaving behind only the cold emptiness of what had been. Zara was gone. For a long moment, Alex sat there, struggling to breathe, his mind reeling. He couldn't process what had just happened. He couldn't fathom the weight of the loss, the finality of it. Zara, his Zara, had given everything to stop the Arcanthians. She had sacrificed herself, and in doing so, she had saved Earth from their conquest. But at what cost? The Arcanthian ships above were no longer moving in the same coordinated manner. They were circling, confused, their energy readings fluctuating erratically. The connection had been severed. Zara had done it, but in the process, she had taken herself out of the fight. She had left Alex to carry on without her. The weight of her sacrifice settled heavily on his shoulders, and for a moment, he wondered if he had the strength to continue. How could he go on, knowing that the person he had come to care for so deeply was gone? But then something deep inside him stirred, a flicker of defiance, of determination. Zara had done this for a reason. She had given him the power to fight, the opportunity to protect everything she had cared for. Her sacrifice couldn't be in vain. Alex stood slowly, wiping his eyes as the wind picked up around him. The Arcanthian ships were still hovering, but now they were vulnerable. The power they relied on to control the world had been severed, and now it was his turn to fight. With one last look at the pool, he turned away, his resolve hardening. The battle was just beginning, the final stand. The ground trembled beneath Alex's boots as he stepped forward, his breath shallow, his mind a swirling storm of grief and determination. The Arcanthian ships hovered above him, dark and menacing against the stormy sky. Their once coordinated movements were now erratic, confused. Zara's sacrifice had severed their connection to the pool, and with it, their control. But it was clear they weren't going to leave without a fight. Alex clenched his fists, his gaze hardening as he scanned the sky. He could hear the distant hum of their engines, a constant reminder that the enemy was closing in. Zara's last words echoed in his mind. You need to survive this. The weight of her sacrifice pressed on him, but it also ignited a fire within him. He couldn't let her death be in vain. He had to be strong. For her. For Earth. He glanced back at the empty pool, its surface now calm, the eerie glow of its energy gone. It was as if the world had fallen silent in mourning, but he couldn't dwell on it. Not now. The Arcanthians were still coming. The first blast of plasma fire lit up the sky, streaking toward Earth with devastating speed. Alex barely had time to react. He dived to the ground, narrowly avoiding the explosion that left a trail of scorched earth where he had been standing just seconds before. His heart pounded as he scrambled to his feet, his pulse racing with adrenaline. The ships above were already circling, targeting him. Sensing that something was different, Zara had altered the balance, and now they were desperate to regain control. In the distance, the sounds of battle were starting. The people of Earth had rallied, their forces banding together in the wake of Zora's actions. The resistance had grown, but it was still a fragile hope in the face of overwhelming power. Alex knew that it was up to him to tip the scales in their favor. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small device Zora had given him earlier. It was a simple tool, but one that held unimaginable potential. It was a piece of technology she had secretly worked on during her time on Earth, a weapon designed to disrupt the Arcanthians' energy fields. If used correctly, it could destroy their ships, disable their weapons, and level the playing field. But it was dangerous. Zora had warned him that it could backfire if the timing wasn't perfect. Alex didn't have time to second-guess himself. He sprinted toward a nearby outcrop of rock, the device clenched tightly in his hand. Behind him, the Arcanthian ships were closing in, their plasma cannons charging for another shot. He could feel the heat of the blast before it even reached him. At the last moment, he threw himself behind the outcrop, ducking just as the ground exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The shockwave sent him sprawling, his body tumbling across the earth as debris rained down around him. His ears rang, and his vision blurred, but he gritted his teeth and pushed through the pain. He couldn't afford to stop now. With a grunt, Alex got to his feet, barely able to steady himself as he stumbled toward the edge of the rock formation. The device was still in his hand, its surface glowing faintly, waiting for the signal. The Arcanthian ships were now directly above him, hovering like massive predators. Their energy fields crackled with malevolent power, ready to destroy everything in their path. But Alex was ready. He raised the device, his heart pounding, his breath shallow. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Zara had given him this chance. She had sacrificed everything to give him this moment of hope. And now, it was his turn to do the impossible. He pressed the button. The device hummed to life, its energy signature flashing bright and steady. For a split second, Alex thought it wasn't going to work. But then, boom! A massive wave of energy shot out from the device, slamming into the first Arcanthian ship. The vessel buckled, its energy shields flickering as they struggled to hold against the force. The other ships immediately attempted to retaliate, firing volleys of plasma fire, but their shots went wide, losing their precision. Their energy fields were destabilizing. The tide was turning. Alex's heart raced as the Arcanthians tried to regroup, but the damage was done. One ship crashed to the ground, its hull rupturing in a fiery explosion. Another one followed, the energy from the device tearing through its shields like paper. The remaining ships began to break formation, panic setting in as they realized their control had slipped. Alex didn't hesitate. He ran toward the center of the battlefield, the device still crackling with power. The enemy was in disarray, and the resistance, fueled by the courage Zora had inspired, was charging forward, ready to fight. He could see the human forces gathering, their weapons drawn, their eyes filled with determination. The war was far from over, but the first wave of the Arcanthian assault had been broken. Earth had a fighting chance. As he stood there, watching the chaos unfold, Alex realized something. Zara had given him more than just the tool to fight. She had given him the strength to face impossible odds, the courage to keep going even when the world seemed lost. She had sacrificed herself to give him, and Earth, this opportunity. He clenched his fists, his heart full of fire. The battle wasn't won yet, but it would be. He would fight. And when it was over, he would make sure that Zara's sacrifice was honored, that her story would be remembered. Because Earth wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for something bigger, something worth dying for. And Alex wasn't going to let them lose.